In this video, I'll be making these lovely appetizers as a part of the holidays dinner series. I'll start by making the puff pastry itself. However, if you prefer to buy a frozen one from the store, there is no shame in that. I'm making this from scratch since I'll be using this for both the appetizers and the vegan Wellington. I couldn't find a vegan puff pastry that's large enough for the Wellington, so I thought why not make one. It turned out to be really simple anyway, so let's dig in. Puff pastry has two parts, the dough and the butter. They have some French names, but I'll save myself the embarrassment of pronouncing them and just put them on the screen. To make the dough, I'll throw 3 cups of all-purpose flour in a large mixing bowl, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and half a teaspoon of salt. Mix them together quickly, then I'll add in some vegan butter or margarine. For this recipe, don't use this kind of spread butter, but instead get the firm block. I'll be using a total of 100 grams in the dough. I'll grate in 50 grams first. If the butter is too soft, freeze it for a bit, then grate it. Mine worked fine straight out of the fridge. Make sure to get all the grated butter from inside the grater, then mix it in the flour with your hand, breaking the butter into tiny crumbs. Then grate the other 50 grams and do the same thing until you combine all the butter and have somewhat flaky flour. Now I'll add in the water slowly. Make sure the water is ice cold. Add in a tablespoon at a time. I used a total of 14 tablespoons, which is 210 milliliters. The amount of water might vary slightly depending on the type of flour and butter you're dealing with. Keep mixing the mixture till you have a smooth dough ball. Cover this with a cling wrap and try to shape it into a square as much as possible. Then leave it in the fridge. For the butter part, I'll use the same firm butter / margarine, 200 grams this time. I'll put this in parchment paper and fold it into a square. Flip it, and with a rolling pin I'll press on it and spread the butter all around the square. Then couple more rolls to make sure it's evenly spread. This ended up being half a centimeter thick. I'll put this also in the fridge with the dough for about 2 hours. I guess 1 hour is enough also. You can check if the butter is firm and dough is smooth if you're in a hurry. But my advice is to make this puff pastry a day before to be on the safe side, since it needs about 4 to 6 hours of resting in the fridge in total. After they both have rested, I'll dust my board, hands and rolling pin with some flour. The dough tends to stick to things. I'll try to shape the dough into a cross or plus sign by pushing the edges more than the center. Then I'll cut these inner edges and fold them slightly. After measuring the size of the butter, now the butter can go in the center and the wings can be folded. Use whatever method you prefer to add the butter as long as you end up with a square with the butter in the middle. Now I'll stretch the dough in one direction to about 3 times the initial size. Fold it in 3 and repeat one more time. Now we have to wrap it and rest it again 1 to 2 hours in the fridge before doing the same thing again. Make sure to keep dusting your working area with flour and always stretch the dough in the opposite direction of the last fold. Now that we have done a total of 4 folds, I'll let the dough rest for one more time before rolling it into the final thickness. You can fold it one more time if you like, but I'm happy with 4 folds only. After an hour, you can take out the dough from the fridge and roll it out to your desired thickness. I like it to be around half a centimeter thick or a little thinner. Once rolled, I'll cut out 2/3 and freeze it. I will use this part for the vegan Wellington. The other part I will refrigerate while making the fillings. I also cut some of the edges to test them. I put them in the oven while it was heating, and look at that, the layers separated beautifully. And it really tasted like the store-bought one, so that was very encouraging. Now let's jump to the fillings. I will make 3 types of fillings, but let your imagination run wild and use whatever filling you like. You can make this as sweet or savory, but since I'm using it as an appetizer, so I'll just make the savory fillings. In a food chopper, I put few cloves of garlic and some mushrooms. Chop them to small pieces and fry them in some olive oil. Some salt to taste, and then a tablespoon of cooking cream. Once done, set them aside and let them cool down. In the same pan, I'll add more olive oil, garlic, and then some fresh baby spinach. Cover them and move them around from time to time, and that's it. We're ready to assemble our pastries. I'll cut the puff pastry into equal squares. I needed 12 squares since the tray I'm using has 12 cups. I brushed the tray with few drops of oil and put the squares in, then filled some with the mushroom and spinach we made. Then added 2 types of cheese in. Violife Greek White is my favorite, so I'm definitely using that. The other type is a local cheese which I know performs well under pressure. I filled few with cheese only. I'll top them with some caviar once they're done. If you want to fill your pastries with cold fillings that don't go in the oven, fill them with beans to weigh them down and remove them once done. I'll tuck in the corners a little to give them a nice shape. If you're making bigger pastries and you have some larger exposed dough, brush them with some plant-based milk as egg wash replacement so they don't burn. This will go in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes at 200 degrees or until golden brown. And here they are, crunchy layered pastries, and it smells like a bakery in my kitchen. I'll pipe the caviar paste on the cheese ones and we're done. Take a moment here to admire these beautiful layers. Don't forget to subscribe to get notified when the other videos are out. Like and share the video, or leave a comment if you have any questions. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.